So good morning, everybody. I'm a big believer that the day doesn't really start for me until I start. So my day doesn't begin at 7 or 8 or 10:30 when I wake up, or nor does the year really begin with the changing of a calendar day. The day and the year really begin for me when I begin, and for me that just means taking a deep breath and being aware. And so if you haven't taken a deep breath yet this morning, I will wait. I invite you to take one and just allow this day to begin. Allow this year that we're calling 2017 to begin. Allow you in this day to begin again, our topic for today. And I'm excited today to be beginning a new year of talks centered around a theme, our 2017 theme, which is going to be building sanctuary. Building sanctuary. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But first, begin again, because it's something that I love in all spiritual traditions that to me have value and merit. Each and every one teaches us that at any moment, at any time, you can begin again. It doesn't matter what you've done or what's been done to you, you can begin again by turning from any negative or lacking experience and turning instead to what is most sacred and meaningful to you, turning to God. You can have an experience of rebirth at any moment, at any time. You can begin again. Now, in our teaching, we don't teach here that your thoughts are the only thing that create your life. That's not the true essence of our teaching. That's not what we teach, nor do we teach that God creates all of life for you. What we teach is that each of us, through our thinking, through our feelings, through our actions, through our words, that we co-create with the divine intelligence, with the divine spirit, with the sacred. We co-create or build our lives with God. Thomas Merton, the great Catholic teacher, he put it very simply. He said, our vocation is not simply to be, but to work together with God in the creation of our own life, our own identity, our own destiny. It begs the question, what kind of life are you building? What kind of life with the divine are you creating for yourself? Now, by that, I don't mean what kind of life or what kind of crap life is someone else living that's dumping on you. I don't mean what's happening to you in your life. I mean, what's really coming from you? How are you really building your life with the words that you say, with the actions that you take, with the thoughts that you are thinking? Are you building a life that's just about getting by? That's just about trying to get some satisfaction out of each moment? Or are you building a life that is a sanctuary, that truly honors what matters most to your soul and is a place for God, for the sacred to thrive in your life? What kind of life are you building? I want to share with you this morning a story about a young man who grew up in India during the time of English colonialism there. He grew up, and as he got older, he really loved the English way of life. So much so that he didn't pay too much attention to the Hindu teachings of his upbringing. He really set his goals on wanting to be a really good English gentleman. He loved their system of law and went to law school. He loved the way that they dressed and started dressing like English folks do. He loved the way they talked and started talking like English folks did. He really loved this guy named Jesus too, who although wasn't English, a lot of English people loved, and he so admired his teachings of inclusivity and oneness and love. And so this young man set as the main goal of his life to be an incredible Englishman. Now, to me, there's nothing wrong with setting one's goal on being an incredible Englishman. I know many. There might be a couple here. But as we know, those of us who have committed to a spiritual life or a life of the sacred, when you're trying to be something you maybe or perhaps aren't and denying who you were really meant to be, well, life has a way of, if not gently nubbing you, then sometimes slapping you in the face, or a 2x4, it's being said. Now, sometimes it's slapped in the face with beauty, an experience of the marvelous nature of life and how grand things are. Sometimes it hits you with the love bug, and you fall in love with somebody or something, and all of a sudden you want to live for something higher than your own image of yourself. But sometimes life hits us hard. That's what happened to this young man. He wanted to be a perfect English gentleman, and he finished law school, and he got a degree, and he got a great job. He got a job working in South Africa, another place at the time that was a British colony. And he went to go work there, and he had a first-class ticket. First time he ever got to ride in first class, and he had his nice English gentleman clothes on and his accent going. And he was sitting on that train, and someone looked at him kind of funny, and they walked away, and they came back with an official. And the official said to this man, you need to go to the back of the train where the colored people are. But I have my first-class ticket. It's right here. Smiles, very excited. You must have done something to trick somebody out of giving that ticket to you. You give that to me, and you go to the back of the train. I will not be moved, the young man said. Well, if you don't move at this next stop, we're throwing you off this train. I will not be moved, the young man said, and he was thrown off that train. He didn't even get all of his luggage, and he shared that on that particular day for hours, he cried and he shook. His dignity had been so taken from him that he didn't even know how to move or how to ask for help. He was so frightened. Sometimes life hits us hard. And that's what happened for this young man. He'd make some calls, and he got in touch with the company, and they were able to arrange a different form of transportation for him, and this one even went worse. On this one, he wouldn't move, and he was beaten. He was beaten until he was bloody. And he got a message from this experience. It was kind of a backwards enlightenment experience for him. The lesson was that who he had wanted to be, the world was not going to allow him to be. So what response could he have? The only one truly available to him, which was to become who he really was. Now, I don't know to the degree that this young man went through what it's like to go through racial prejudice, but I know for each and every one of us, I'm sure there's a time where you felt your dignity or humanity has been taken away from you. Maybe because of your race, maybe because of your gender or your orientation, maybe because of your age. Who knows? Maybe because someone's just being a you-know-what. And in those moments, life hits us hard. It's not that I believe that life brings us these moments. I just think the world is that way sometimes. I believe that God always knows the truth of who we are, but that the world doesn't. And when the world doesn't know the truth about who we are, we have no other choice but to become who that really is. When the world doesn't know the truth of who you are, then it's your job to tell it, to become it. And that's what this young man did. He did something very interesting. He started exploring his Hindu roots. He got his hands on the Bhagavad Gita, which he had heard about here or there in cultural terms, but he really read it, and he was really inspired by it. And he began to embrace his Indian heritage, and at the same time, he kept the best of what he had learned from the English people. He loved the system of law, and he wanted to use it. And he loved these teachings of this guy named Jesus, and he wanted to use it. Just like we were talking about at the beginning of service, taking the best wisdom and applying it. And this man applied it so well that he changed the world. He literally changed the societies that we lived in. He literally changed and helped almost a one-man army take down British colonialism in South Africa and in India. And who was this man? Yeah, Gandhi. It was Gandhi. And the reason I didn't want to tell you right away, even though I know many of you knew, someone may have blurted it out in the front row. Don't give away the ending of the sermon. The sermon ends on a positive note, okay? Well, just go and tell you. I love this woman. You didn't do it loud. She was good, too. She wasn't even here first service. That's the worst way they did that. The reason why I didn't say his name is because I want you to know that he was just a regular dude. Just like your regular dudes and dudettes. We're all just regular folks who have the ability, if we center our lives in the sacred, to do extraordinary things, amazing things in our lives. Maybe there's not as much as a hunger in the world in the situation like Gandhi was, but I bet you there is, for each and every one of us to respond to something that may be dishonoring our soul, or dishonoring the fact that we are all children of God, or dishonoring the fact that we are all one, that we, through our own personal transformation, can help transform and change. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, he said, "Our thought is operated on by a universal creativity that is infinite in its capacity to accomplish." One more time. Our thought is operated on by a universal creativity that is infinite in its capacity to accomplish. Another way of saying that is at any moment and at any time you can begin again. Because we are always surrounded by this infinite mind, by an infinite knowing, by an infinite creativity. And we always have a choice to conform to what something is happening to us, to what someone is saying to us, or to conform to what we know in our heart and in our soul to be most true about us, and to live a sacred life. That is the choice that is always available to us. And when we choose to live from that sacred life, I know of no more creative or powerful thing that can be done. In our teaching, we have a little catchphrase, change your thinking, change your life. We've all heard that before, change your thinking, change your life. And one simplistic way of putting that is, if you think really positive, then positive things are probably going to happen to you, or you'll have a more positive outlook on life. That's one way of seeing it. But for me, there's a much more profound way of seeing it, and that is in the following way. That if you transform your consciousness and align with a greater vision of your life that is in alignment with the sacred, your highest virtues and values, your life will transform. Your life will transform, and perhaps all of life around you will transform as well. If you begin to live more in alignment with that truth of who you are, then it will be harder to live in the lies that get created around us. There's an old story. It's as old as any story can be, and it's been told 100 different ways, and I'll tell it a little differently today. But it's about a man who's walking upon a construction site. One version of the story has him in ancient France. And he sees some people building something, and he goes up to a man and he says, "What are you doing here?" He says, "What does it look like I'm doing?" "I'm laying stone." He says, "Okay." And he walks to another man and he says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "What does it look like I'm doing? I'm making a living. I'm making a job, making some money." And he goes to a third man. He says, "What are you doing?" And the man gets a gleam in his eye and he looks up at the sky and he says, "I am building a sanctuary. I am building a cathedral in honor of God." And it speaks to how we live our lives. You know, are you living your life just laying the stone, just doing what's in front of you to do without any mindfulness or awareness? Are you living your life just to get the means to an end and forget everybody else? It's just about getting your needs met. Or are you building your life in a way that honors the sacred? That honors the sacred in you and the people that you love, and at the heart of this sacred and precious planet that we live in. What does it mean to truly build a sanctuary, not only where you can thrive in your life, but where God can thrive in your life and perform those miracles and provide those epiphanies and fill one's heart with love and deep knowing. The unfortunate truth for many of us is it's almost impossible to build a sanctuary in our lives because we've built a prison instead. We haven't built the sanctuary, we built the prison. The prison of limited beliefs, the prison of judgments about others, the prison of self-abandonment, a prison of worry and anxiety, a prison of not enough. In order to build the sanctuary that our heart longs for, we have to tear the prison down. We have to set ourselves free. And what do we need to remember? That at any moment and at any time, we can begin again. You can begin again. I'd like to share with you this morning what to me is the secret of creation. The secret of creativity. If you can know this one secret, you can accomplish anything in your life, or at least accomplish something great within yourself. And the secret is this. The secret of creation is that creation never stops. Creation never stops. What does this mean? Well, first of all, it means that life never ends. Life is always as it has been and will always be what it is, regardless. What else does it mean? It means that you are not a created being, but that you are an eternally creative being. You are not as much a noun as you are a verb in this thing called life. And how you choose to be in this moment will dictate the course and the direction in which your life will go. It means that there's no real beginnings and no real endings, and that always within you is the power to begin. The power to begin again, the ability to let go, the ability to move forward, the ability to use the greatest tool, the greatest force ever imagined that Gandhi used so well to help free his people, and that's the power of the force of love. The force of love. We can use it in our lives. We can use it to inspire others around us with greater clarity and greater joy. I want to invite each of you, give you a charge this morning to do one thing every day this month. Just this month. And I promise you, if you do this thing, you will live a more creative and fulfilling life, or I will return any unhappiness back to you at the end. And the practice is to every day begin again. Every day take a moment to begin again. Remember, like we were saying just at the beginning of this talk, don't let the day begin when you wake up. Don't let anyone else dictate when it starts, but allow it to start, whether it starts at 6 a.m. or 9 p.m. Sometimes it takes me that long in a day to begin again. But to consciously become aware of your relationship with the sacred and to make a conscious choice to live from your virtues, to live from your values, not in accord with what so-and-so is doing over here or your worry about such and such over there, but to live in accordance with what matters to you. Each and every day, take that moment to begin again. It may look like 5 minutes of quiet meditation. It may look like taking a swim in a pool. It may look like enjoying just a warm cup of coffee. You can even change it up, but consciously decide to have a ritual every day this month of beginning again, and you will change your life. You will transform your life, and you will see life not as it wasn't before, but much more clearly as it really and truly is and can be. Once again from Ernest Holmes, everything is continually being recreated. Spirit is forever making all things new. Today is the time to prove to ourselves that it knows how to bring the right things to pass for us. So it's just closing with a prayerful moment. I might invite us to take a moment to be aware of a daily ritual that we can do that symbolizes beginning again. And if you so choose, please join me as I take a deep breath, signifying beginning again. Knowing that every time I take this breath, and I may need to begin 100 times in a day, that I am saturated, I am uplifted, I am surrounded by a divine presence that knows the truth of who I am and the truth of all those around me in life itself. I choose to dwell in this knowing. I choose to live from this place. I choose to walk, think, be, and become from that power that can accomplish anything. I release myself from the prison of believing or living from anything that is less than the truth of who I am. I stand firmly centered and move from that place of divine knowing it uplifts me and those around me. May each of us in our own way, in our own time, in our amazing uniqueness, open up to the heart of the sacred in our lives so that it may unleash, uplift, and make itself known in each and every moment that we begin again. And so it is. Amen. So thanks for your time, everybody. Great to see you. I hope I didn't embarrass you, Reverend Peggy. We love you.